Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, it's Kelly, and I am here with a very special episode today. Our guest is the one and only Amy Beyer. I'm pretty certain everybody in our community knows who Amy is because she is a premier instructor. People absolutely love taking her class. And she has also been our nutrition coach for the past almost 10 years. So most everyone has had an opportunity to do one of Amy's programs or to follow her along on social media. But I want to introduce her to a wider audience because she is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to slow organic change, getting better over time, coaching in a realistic way that is also fun. I think that's one of the reasons why her programs are so incredibly popular, is because people always note that they have fun with Amy, and that's just so incredibly important. So I'm going to let Amy go ahead and introduce herself and just kind of share a little bit about her journey with KBC so far.
Hey, okay, thanks, Kelly. So I actually have been around even before I started coaching. I became a KBC member in 2012. I had just finished about 8, 9 months of working out, taking a class at the rec center, and I went from kind of stuck, overweight. I don't even know what my body fat was. I would guess probably, in the overweight category for sure. And I stay-at-home mom, 3 young boys, and I finally decided to do something about it. And I started very slowly, very organically. You guys, if you know me, you know I love music. I love moving to music. So I'd taken an aerobics class at the rec center and then with a friend, and it had gone really well, and I started to lose some weight, was feeling better about myself. And then the instructor I love was, due to family circumstances, not going to be teaching anymore. So I happened to run into Brandon Pugh at Outer Banks that year. And he was like, "Oh, you look really good. What have you been doing?" And I told him, but then I was like, "Oh, the instructor I really liked is leaving." And he said, "Oh, you should come work out at my boot camp." And those words boot camp to me were like super scary. I just imagined, I don't know, like some guy yelling at me while I did push-ups on a park bench. I was like, "Oh, no, thanks. I don't really think that's my jam." Didn't think anything more of it. And that fall, my youngest son was in preschool at the rec center, and his teacher was Jane McLean. And I was like, "Oh, she looks good, what she's doing. She has so much positive energy, if you know Jane." And so I asked her, I was like, "What do you do for workouts?" And she said, "Kelly's Boot Camp. You should come. You would love it." And I was like, all right, well, no offense, Brandon, but Jane might know a little better. And so I think I texted or emailed Kelly that week. And, I'm a very type A, okay, what do I need to do? Where do I need to pay? What's going on? What do I need to wear? And Kelly's like, "Oh, just show up. It's out in the park. Just show up." And I was like, "Okay, all right." And so I did. And long story short, I immediately fell in love. I started going twice a week while my son was in preschool. There was a 9:30 class. And one of the classes was step, which was one of my first loves since I was like 15 years old. And I rapidly went from, twice a week to almost daily, probably daily by the end of the year. And it was my home away from home. And it was my escape as a stay-at-home mom who, don't get me wrong, I love being a mother and taking care of my kids, but it's a lot. And it's definitely a full-time job. And I wasn't doing enough to feed myself physically or mentally at the time. And so it just offered me that outlet. And literally one thing led to another very organically from that point forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is really important, that you knew you needed something. You weren't sure what, you just started. And once you started, you didn't want to lose your momentum. So you right away were seeking something else. And I love the part of the story where you're like, "That's not for me. That's not for me." And then we're like, okay, maybe I should try it. And that's really, if anyone's read the book, the name of Amy's chapter is actually Just Show Up. And that's probably one of the most profound mantras that we have in KBC, because it's so easy to overthink something. It's so easy to wait for that perfect time or that perfect class or the thing that just sounds like it's exactly for you. And that might never happen. So you just have to start and then build from there. Amy starting at the rec center, finding something that she liked, she had maybe a little bit more confidence that like, okay, group training is definitely my happy place. Well, she had experience with group training and lots of experience in cheer, and that's definitely kind of the same atmosphere that we have being on a team. I love the idea of thinking of us as being on a team. So Amy, over the time, let's go. We'll start talking Amy more as a student because she had a pretty long journey as a student before she became an instructor and coach. And what would you say as a student was really the most significant thing that you learned, especially as you were just getting started?
Yeah, so I think I learned that it is okay to put myself first.
Mm,
And it was, and I have to say my husband was super supportive. I think he at times felt bad that, even though, yes, he was working a very demanding job and gone from the house, 12 hours a day, he would do anything he could to support me as far as, if I had a girls' night out, go. Like he would never,
mm,
ever, he would rush home and same thing, like so many times we're trading off the kids in the parking lot. So I think it clicked to me that like, hey, it doesn't need to be all about being a mom or a wife or this or that. It can just be all about what I need.
mm,
And I think I'd gotten away from that for so long that it was finally like reaffirming that I can put myself first. And then I think just once it was like I got my confidence back. I
yeah,
got my groove back, and it
yeah.
became a place I felt really welcomed and really able to just be the best that I could be and just seeing myself improve every single week. And then the feedback from you and the other members, as far as like the energy, it was just like, I don't think it's any coincidence that energy is named energy because that's literally what I think about when I think about the people of KBC. It's just
Mm,
such incredible energy. And we just all feed off each other. And you can't, the workout's almost secondary to that, right?
yeah,
So I think just really like showing up for myself and just feeling a part of something again,
yeah,
that was amazing.
yeah. I think that is super important. And you mentioned, being a mom and how that can feel very lonely, especially if you're not working outside of the home and that's your job and you feel like you need to be the best mom. And oftentimes we think by being the best mom, we're just all in with our kids all the time. And I know personally, I have seen that really backfire. And I was the same as you, Amy. I never got babysitters. That's one of the reasons why KBC is so special to me. That became my thing, not just my thing, but mine and Andrew's thing. We had something outside of just taking care of our house and our kids and our family that we could look forward to and talk about. It wasn't just like worrying about what kid that day or worrying, we had something else. And I think that's really important, whatever stage of life that you're in. When I first started, I feel like most of the people that were starting my program were turning 40. It was really interesting. So I was younger than them at the time. Then as we evolved, a lot of women came to us in their 40s. And I heard over and over and over again, and I still hear it today, and I'm sure you do too. Once they get started, they say, I wish I started earlier. I wish I started this earlier. And I don't believe in that. I believe when you start is the right time to start. But I do hear that from moms, especially all the time. I just wish I started this earlier. So I think that that's really good advice that you were able to carve out some time for yourself. And I love to tell people, you're going to go home and be better at everything. After your workout, you're going to be in a better mood. You're going to have better energy. I used to say I'm Mary Poppins. I would come home from class and be like totally burnt out and just overwhelmed by all the chaos. And I would come back and be like, hi, everyone, just the happiest version of myself. So I think there's a place for that in any stage of life. I love that answer. That's a really good answer. Can you share, Amy, a specific milestone or something that you've achieved since joining or something you feel like, gosh, I never thought I'd be able to do?
Yeah, so I mean, it's, more on the physical side of things,
Yeah.
but I was a college cheerleader. I've been tiny all my life. I'm short in stature. I have a small frame, and having three children, three C-sections, being a stay-at-home mom, it took its toll on me physically. And I probably went up between graduating from college and, my last son being born, 4 or 5 clothing sizes. Weight does not wear very well on you if you are 5'1". And
It's
I
hard.
just kind of accepted it. And then to be, getting ready to turn 50 and saying, I'm probably in the best shape of my life.
Mm,
I feel very proud of that. And
yeah.
that's really been the case. Yes, I've had some ups and downs since, and, over the past 12 or so years. But I'd say consistently, like, I can wear the same clothes I wore now, getting ready to turn 50 when I turned 40. And, I just feel really proud that I've been able to maintain and just really grow in my physical capacity. Like, I can lift anything now that I couldn't
Yeah.
do, when I
Yeah.
was 20, 25, 30.
Feeling strong.
So
Yeah.
I feel really strong and capable. And yeah, we have our aches and pains and our setbacks, but I just feel really proud of the, physicality I've been able to achieve in, midlife that, I couldn't do, in my 20s and 30s.
Yes, I think that's a great answer. And your change was very, very gradual. You came, I never thought of you as overweight, but you look completely different now. You just look, your physique is completely different. And, certain statures, certain body types do have a harder time gaining muscle. And it's just not, it's of a strategic game for someone like Amy to put a lot of muscle on, but she has. So I love that you, and then we'll talk more about this, but then you can help other women do the same, which is just so powerful. I know there's been lots of ups and downs along your journey, not just with you, but with your family, and you have had some setbacks. Can you describe a challenging moment in your journey and how the support from the Kelly's Bootcamp and Energy community helped you overcome that?
Yeah, well, I've had two that really stand out. The first one was when I was a member. I've been a member for about a year, and my middle son Lex was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And if you've ever had anyone, a loved one, diagnosed with any type of chronic disease, there's no other word other than devastating. It
Mm.
it took everything in me, and the support I received from the community was just like anyone. It's overwhelming. And I just remember my goal was just not to cry in front of him because I just didn't want him to see that I was scared, right?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was so sick for a long time. It took a while to really stabilize everything. But the support I received and the just outpouring of what can we do? What could, just
Mm.
and it's just knowing you have a team in your corner and then knowing I had a place to go still,
Yeah.
once we got him stable,
Yeah.
I was right back to my workouts. I think
You
I
were.
remember
I-
I remember messaging you like, I'm gonna miss Saturday boot camp because it was one we had to sign up for whatever challenge we did. And I went Kelly thinking like, oh, I signed up and then I didn't show up. Like that's just not who I am. So I'm like texting her from Children's National in DC, like,
yeah.
but just so that was a big one for me. And then COVID was another time. It was awful for everybody. And just going into that studio and teaching all alone, you just got this big TV and this laptop and it's quiet and you're used to, I'm a people person. I feed off people. Like that
Yeah.
energy in the room is both of us.
Yeah.
It's everything, right? And I just remember being like kind of down about it and like, how am I going to fill this hour of airspace? Like, what am I going to talk about? Are they going to be bored? What equipment are they going to, I was, worried about all that stuff. And then all these faces start popping up on the Zoom
Mm.
screen and they're so excited just to have a little bit of normalcy. And I was
Mm.
like, all right, you can do this. These are your people. They don't care if you're
Mm-hmm.
perfect. They don't care. They know there's going to be technological glitches. And
Mm.
everybody, we were just all needed each other so much. And it
Yeah.
was just a great time that the community just really helped me help me get through that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I like that COVID lesson because it's so true. We were all in it together. We were all in it together. We were all just on a mission to keep showing up for each other, them for you, us for them. Ultimately, it made us stronger for sure. I don't think any of us like going back to the memories, but ultimately, it really did make us stronger as a community. I'm kind of getting through that and managing that. And going back to Lex, I remember because I didn't have a lot of personal experience with diabetes, and you just looked like you were wiped. You showed up that next week and you stayed after class and we talked, and I just felt every bit of I mean, Amy and I had a lot in common. Moms of three young boys and that middle son, and there's so many things. There's so many things that I could just not relate to, but feel how challenging that was. But I also saw something in you. I'd already seen it. I'd already seen that you were a leader and that you were strong and that you showed up and you were a rule follower. And if you said you were going to do it, you were going to do it. And those are all things I like and value. But I saw a determination and I saw a resilience that I don't know that I'd gotten a chance. I'm sure it was there, but I had gotten a chance to see. And in that very moment, I knew that that was something that you were going to conquer, and that was going to make you and your family stronger. And I couldn't have been more right. So let's kind of go into that. Like, fast forward a little bit from the shock and the devastation to what you were going to have to do for your family, what your next steps were.
Yeah, so when Lex was diagnosed, we spent the weekend at Children's Hospital, and I can only describe it as a state of shock. But they're shuttling you to all these classes, the parents, to learn what to do, how to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And one specifically I remember was on nutrition, and I would consider it, looking back on it now, just the most basic, bare bones. It was basically like keep them alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there was nothing as far as, the type of what I know now. And then I remember coming home and just, immediately what was out there was, give them this crystal light, artificial sweetener, this,
Mm-hmm.
artificial sweetener, this. And there was just something in me, mom instincts, I don't know what, knew innately, like, I don't know that this is the right path. It took a while, but then I started just really diving into everything I could on best practices for nutrition. And I mean, I was the mom that literally threw a Pop Tart at my kids as they ran out the door to school, like when there was we lived on Chick-fil-A and Moe's and fast and convenient. I never really enjoyed cooking. I didn't think I was particularly good at it. I did enough to feed everybody, but it was not healthy by any means. So I really just slowly started learning about nutrition, learning how to cook well. And it was very slow, it was very organic, and it took time. But basically, what I'm doing for my 9-year-old at the time, I'm not going to do something different for him. Like, if it's good for him, it's
Right.
good for the rest of us.
Right. Right. I
So
think
it
that's
just kind
really
of started learning more. Strawberry Pop Tarts became, let's eat some strawberries.
perfect. I,
Yeah, so it happened very organically, but over time, I remember I used to have they gave us in the hospital this little Calorie King book that you'd carry around with you, and it tell you the carbs and all that. And, it was really, the education was about just everything carb. But then I came to learn it's about way more than just,
yeah.
where
Yeah.
your carbs come from or how much carbs are in
Yeah.
something. But say that's where I started learning about fiber and protein and how all these different things affect. I could see his blood sugar graphs, and what was happening to him was happening to the rest of us. I could just actually see his, and then we
Yeah.
had to, adjust his insulin accordingly.
I love that. So your next move, or your next kind of, we'll call it, step in your progression with KBC, was becoming a challenge leader. And you talk a little bit about that in the book. And those of you, I think we've talked about the Winter Challenge in some capacity every week, but it is really just an experience. I think more than anything, I'm not like a quick fix, like, change everything in 6 weeks kind of person. So I've had a love-hate relationship with the challenge, but that love part of it comes from the connection and the leadership and the way people come together to get better. That's why I really love the team portion of the Winter Challenge, the way people come together to get better. And I'm actually getting ready to do it now. So anyone listening to this, if you're a local, I'm seeking leadership. But one of the things that I do usually around this time of year is say, I am looking for people to step up to be a leader for the Winter Challenge. And I make it very clear that it is a big time commitment. It is a volunteer position, and it is something that you do because you have it on your heart, to help other people or to bring people together, or a lot of times people do it because they're a leader in other aspects of their life, or they were a leader and they like being a leader and they like bringing people together. So when I put that call out, I did get a response from Amy. Do you remember that? Okay.
Yes, I remember very well. I would actually, I kind of came back to Kelly and said, well, I think I'm going to co-captain with someone else. And I remember her calling me and being like, I think I know you well enough that you're probably not going to want to, go with someone else. I think you'd rather do your own thing. And after I thought about it, I was like, true. So I took it on, and I think I was the only captain who'd never even done the contest before. So
Yeah.
I really had zero idea what I was getting into,
Yeah.
but I went in
Yeah. And you
and
recruited a lot of your friends. We had a lot of non-KBCers on that team. So that was really fun. It was fun to welcome new people into the community. You had a lot of guys on your team, which I think is really fun. And you guys, I just looked at your cookbook that you made the other day. You guys made a cookbook. You really you went above and beyond in so many ways. What would you say? What would you say if you had to talk about your team a little bit that year, Amy?
I mean, it was awesome. I mean, for me, it was probably a part-time job, but I made it that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not very good at doing things
Plus,
halfway or
I think it's changed a little bit over time.
yes,
It made it
I
so
would
it's
agree.
less time consuming for the leader.
Yes, yes. So I don't know. It was I equate it to like being back on that high school sports team, but you have
Mm,
like the life experience and the perspective to really be like, let's go, guys. Like, I mean, we had a competitive team. Some teams are more competitive than others traditionally in years. We were unabashed, like we want to win. Like,
yeah.
and I love the guys, Andrew, I think Kelly's husband was the only person on our team who'd done the contest before. It was a true team of rookies who were like, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. But it was a very smart team of rookies. It was a very competent, smart, competitive. You weren't average by any means. You definitely
Yes.
had some superpowers in that team.
Yes, it was fun, and it was just a great way to connect with people. I had several people on the team who I'd never even met before, and
I
everyone
love
was
that
just
part of it.
amazing. And it was the energy and it was just you're all in for that. I think back then it was like 7-8 weeks too. It was a little bit
Mm-hmm.
longer, and you're just all
Mm-hmm.
in. And at the time it seems so important to win, but the perspective on it is it's about getting better both as an individual and as a team, and connecting with people and just having that fun shared life experience.
Yep. And the habits. I do think that people usually pick up a few habits that they can keep going with. And that's what I had to get my head around. Cause I'm like, I don't like changing everything for 6 weeks. A lot of people completely give up alcohol. They're working out every day. They're extreme and don't mind that if that's something they feel like they're going to continue with, or a version of that. But usually it ends up being a version. But usually they pick up something, whether it's eating more protein or concentrating on drinking more water or sleep or whatever aspect of the challenge they felt like really helped them. They usually hold on to a couple of those things, one or two of those things. So that's where I really recognized Amy as not just a star student and a leader, but as somebody that has a great capacity to impact people beyond just fitness. And we were in a stage where we had some people in our community making suggestions to our members that they take some of these products that I have never felt good about, because I don't like anything that's a quick fix, or pills and potions and that kind of thing has always been against my grain in the fitness industry. And it's always been something that's quite honestly really disturbed me. And I felt a little helpless because like these are our members, and I felt like they were looking for something, but that was not the answer. And what I knew about Amy, and I knew that she had put a lot of work already into learning more about nutrition the right way. So I called her and asked her if she would be interested in becoming it. Now, at the time, I did not have a nutrition coach for KBC, and I'm not a nutrition coach by any means. I coach a lot of general guidelines, but it wasn't something that I had the capacity to do. So I was really excited when Amy said yes. And really, I mean, since then, it's been a whirlwind. She has developed countless programs. And what I love about Amy is she's always evolving. So she'll do a program, she'll take everything that was great from it and then move on to whatever makes the most sense. And some people could look at Amy and I and be like, you should have a plan and you should be more strategic and you should know. But you know what? Our plan is to listen to our people, and our plan is to grow with them and to see what they need and to see where their struggles are. So that is one of the things I value the most about Amy is she really has that same mindset of our goal is to help people become a healthier version of themselves. We learn from our people. I want you to talk a little bit about that, Amy.
Yeah, so once Kelly asked me if I would be interested in nutrition coaching, getting certified, and all that. This time I didn't hesitate at all, like I did for being a contest captain. I was beyond flattered, first of all, that she would even think of me. And then second of all, I'd really developed kind of a passion about, learning about food and how it fuels us. And I just, everything, I kind of nerded out on the nutrition science. So I did, my nutrition certification. And then just a couple months later, started my first nutrition coaching with Camp U, which had just started that summer in 2015. And it just really started with lots of one-on-one coaching through Camp U. And then very, like Kelly said, very organically grew into, I think I did my first small group coaching program in 2017. And I would really run programs, see what worked, see what didn't work, and then, what do we need? What do we need was always,
Mhm.
and I think it's always, any coach will tell you kind of that what you're always reaching for is who are those people I missed in that program, or who did the
Mm.
program but didn't finish it. And that still happens to this day. And that's why I
Yep.
feel like I'm constantly changing things up. I'm like, okay, how can, yes, I got those 25 people, but I'm still, we're up at night worried about the one we missed. And that's, if you're a coach, that's kind of, it comes with the territory. But it's really just, how can I most easily connect with people and help them where they are? I don't want
Yeah.
them to feel like they have to come to where I am. I want to meet them where they are,
Mm.
and let them know, like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to, meal prep 3 hours every weekend. And maybe you're a vegetarian, or, maybe, you eat, a diet that's closer to your home culture, and it looks different, and that's okay. We can figure these things out. Maybe you
Mhm.
work full time and you have kids and you volunteer, it's all these different things. So it's just finding ways always just to improve and connect better and just really help the most people. That's what it comes down to.
I think the one thing that you excel at, and it's been from the very beginning, and I think that's because of how you learn or what's helped you is you educate. You are an and Amy, actually, we didn't tell that part of the story, but her first career was as a teacher, so it really makes perfect sense. But the feedback that I probably get the most from Amy's students, who, by the way, come back year. If Amy's running a program, they're doing it because they know, and maybe they didn't even get like the exact results that they wanted, but they know that the work that they're doing with Amy is moving their health in the right direction. They know they're starting to feel better. They know that they're starting to sleep better. They know that they have more tools in their toolbox as far as strategies to combat some of the things that we're going to talk a little bit about. But constantly I'm hearing from Amy's students, I learned from Amy. I learned from, you've probably heard it on this podcast at least 10 times already. Amy taught me. Amy taught me. And I think that's just the most valuable thing is to actually give people the knowledge that, and then, we all have knowledge that we don't use. I know a lot of things that are great that I don't do, but I have the knowledge, and I know that it's there when I'm ready to utilize it. And another thing that I think that Amy's programs does, and I don't think we can say enough about this, and I think people are like embarrassed to say this, but accountability. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are the most disciplined, dedicated, organized, smart person in the universe. If you're not accountable to somebody, you're most likely not doing it. So a lot of the coaching programs are just that. A lot, just just having that layer of accountability, someone that they respect and care about, cares about them. They want to do good because they want to do good for Amy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've both heard a million times, like, I know what to do, I just don't do
Yeah.
it. So I
Yeah.
think adding that layer of accountability and just having that person who is going to be checking in with you, or you need to text, or is expecting you to show up in class is huge. And, one thing you've said always, which has always stuck with me, is people will work harder for other people lots of times than they do for
Mm.
themselves.
Yep.
And that's so true. Like if I know, oh, Kelly's expecting me to do this, like I'm going to show up 110% because, I want to be there and, make her proud. And I feel like when people are being coached, it's the same way. On the other hand, I think that's sometimes why we lose people and
Mm-hmm.
programs
Mm-hmm.
because they're embarrassed or they weren't perfect. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I'm always trying to, as much as I'm providing the nutrition education, I'm also letting them know, like, none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. You're, like that is not, never, ever, ever an expectation. And so I think just, really just trying to give people, for me, knowledge is power. That's why education has always been huge for me. I was a teacher, and so I think I learned, even in a subject I wasn't super passionate about. I used to teach history, but I learned, like, if you make something interesting and if you tell people kind of the how and the why, they're more likely to deliver on the what.
Mm.
So if I explain to them why it's
Mm.
important to eat protein and why, what fiber does in your body, and then they're like, oh, okay. Whereas if I just
Mm.
say, hey, eat more
Mm-hmm.
fiber and protein, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. But if I
Yep.
explain to them, why it's important and how it works in their body, then they're like, that makes sense. And that
Mm.
explains why this is happening, maybe
Yeah.
like, so for me, because that's how okay, yeah, you can tell me to do something, but if I don't understand why or how to do it, then
Right. I think, especially now where there's no shortage of information, right? Anybody that wants to learn something, they could learn it. It's at their fingertips. But there is that making that connection to the value that it has for that particular person is so powerful. I really think that that is a huge part of the secret sauce. I really do. And I want to say that this can take a decade. This does not happen quickly. People have very slow learning curves when it comes to nutrition. And until they experience for themselves and feel it, they don't believe it. They don't believe it. I think that's one of the things we're best at is getting them to the other side, but I'm going to tell you it's not quick. It's not it wasn't quick with me. It wasn't quick with Amy. It's not quick with our students. So do not give up on yourselves. I will say that I've had people do programs or do the challenge, even do the winter challenge 2 or 3 times and have terrible experiences. Be like, I didn't do good. And then that fourth time, something clicks. And I think Amy could say the same about nutrition programs.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it takes, and sometimes it's where you are in life. Maybe you're just
Yes.
not in that space where either mentally or you've just got too much going on. But I think just finding that space also to be super, super patient. And I try to tell
Mm.
people, whether it's a group program or one-on-one coaching from the get-go, my line is always, this is not the fast and sexy approach.
Hmm.
I'm never going to tell you you're going to lose 10 pounds in 10 days.
Yeah.
If you do, it's
Yeah.
all water.
If you do, it's coming right back.
Right. So I think just, yeah, being persistent and like really pursue, because each time, like you said, you're getting better. You're learning something, whether people realize it or not. I think people get frustrated when they don't see their numbers move on the scale or on the end body, but you're getting smarter and you're getting
Hmm.
just that
Hmm.
knowledge is priceless.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's learning what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'll have people who, I thought, oh, wow, that program didn't work for them. That one didn't really hit with them. And then a year later, they'll come to me and say, like, oh my gosh, I had, my best numbers. I felt better than ever. I had more energy. I was sleeping better when I was doing your program. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. 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 It is. Yeah. And the slow changes over time really are powerful We see that with our members. One of the things I love about Amy is that she likes to eat. She's not, you look at her and she's very tiny and you think she probably eats like a bird, but she does not. She eats and she coaches her people to eat, which I find very empowering. And I think one of the things that Amy is really good at is helping people be strategic as far as what they're eating, as far as not necessarily macros, but more just strategic in how they're eating. Can you speak to that at all, Amy? Can you give us like maybe like one of your best tips that you, and I know we don't really give generic advice because everything is individualized, but like if there's one thing that you've seen work for most people, what would you say that is?
Yeah, so I was actually just on a call with a client this morning, and she's a new client, and I said, well, how do you think it's going? And, I wanted to get her feedback. And the first thing she said, I know what you're going to say, and it's, I need to eat more. And I was like, exactly. And so it really starts with 3 meals a day. I think sometimes we get so caught up in, oh, I need to have this, and I need to have this, and I shouldn't eat here. And really, sometimes it's just going back to the basics of
Mm,
having three really high quality meals each day. And in each meal, I build my meals around protein, and then I fill in the blanks with plants. And if there's anything left over at the end, that's the fun stuff.
mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it was finding a way to cook those things in a way I enjoyed them.
Mm,
So learning to prepare plant foods, especially in a way that's appetizing, it doesn't even have to be complicated, but like I didn't grow up in a household where we roasted vegetables. Like
mm-hmm.
they were
Mm-hmm.
usually boiled to death and not appetizing, or they were raw, which is okay, but not something you necessarily enjoy, lots of, and learning to make amazing salads. Like anytime I go out to dinner at a restaurant, I have an amazing salad. I'm like, okay, what they put, I can make that at home
Mm-hmm.
easily.
Mm-hmm.
So just really getting back to like, and it's big meals, but the thing is you have to realize it's not quick and convenient. And
Mm-hmm.
wish I would be a magician if I could make, yes, you can get stuff from restaurants that's better for you, and you can get stuff delivered that's better for you, but there really is no replacement for just cooking or preparing your meals at home, being in
Mm,
control of the ingredients. So I think that for me has been the biggest transformation because, like I said, when I was a young mom and I was just what was quick and easy, quick and easy, quick and easy. And people are always asking, and I can give obviously we can give tips and tricks and quick and easy shortcuts. But at the end of the day, it's a lot about really cooking meals, getting that protein in, and then getting your plants in, and a wide variety of plants. So those are the two things. If I can get people doing those two things pretty consistently, obviously it's not every meal. I have pizza on Friday nights. I have, plenty of indulgences, but doing that, the 70 to 80% of the time will take most people a very, very long way.
yeah, I think that's excellent advice. Let's talk about your new program. So, Amy has spent really the last few years with. I'll let you talk about that a little bit, Amy, and why you decided to kind of shift gears and start something new and fresh for January 2025.
Yeah, so starting back in January 2021, right after, the big COVID year, I started a new program then, and it was called Clean and Shred, and it was very, very successful. And I've run it, oh gosh, I don't know, probably 8, 9 times at this point. And it was great, and I loved it. And it was probably my first really big successful program that I'm like, I would update it and change it and tweak it each time, but I really felt like this program works for most people. And it was great. But coming into this year, I did a program. I had a new program this year, Menopause Makeover, which was really targeted at that, menopausal woman who we have a lot of, that age range, 45 to 60 in our community. I'm right smack in that age range. And that was a great program too. I've also spent this past year probably coaching more one-on-one clients and feeling like just had more success with the one-on-one coaching than I'd felt previously. I kind of developed a system that seemed to be working really well. But my last small group this fall for Menopause Makeover, I felt like I was kind of losing some people in the process, going back to like, is this, is this, I want everybody who signs up for a program and pays the money to be in that program to be all in, and I want to help them as much as possible. But the realist in me knows life's happening, and several
Sure.
people in the group, unforeseen life circumstances that happen. So basically was trying to think of a way I could have a new program in the new year that would facilitate, the great group vibe of the clean and shred, and then also have that connection and that accountability of the one-on-one coaching. So basically was like, well, why can't I merge the two?
Yeah.
So I came up with I've been thinking I wanted to use 321 go, 321 goal as a
Mm-hmm.
program name, but I didn't have a program designed yet. So I remember I was in the car with my husband. We were on the way to my son's cross country race, and I was like, kind of telling him what I wanted to do. And I was like, I think I have the 3 and the 1. It's going to be, you take one goal and we break that down into 3 habits, because that's what I do with my nutrition clients. I break it down into these habits they're developing with
Mm-hmm.
me each week, but I don't know what to make the 2. And he's like, 2 months. And I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty obvious. And he's right, because
I love it,
it
Tracy.
takes about 2 months to develop a habit.
Yeah.
That's the new program starting in January, and I'm super excited about it because it's going to really, I hope, merge the best of small group coaching, that accountability, that social support, which,
Mm. It's huge.
KBC people usually love.
Mm-hmm.
We're a social group, but also the accountability and the coaching of, hey, here's exactly what I see that you need to work on. So,
Yeah.
the groups are great, but sometimes maybe people are already doing great with something that's, I'm giving them the directive for that week, but then maybe they're already hitting that, but they're suffering or could use some help in another area. So it's really personalized in that part of, I can just talk directly with that client and we can kind of together come up with the 3 things that will most benefit them, working towards their goal.
I love that. And I think that the combination of the hybrid of having some individual coaching, it's not a completely individualized program. You could sign up for that as well with Amy. She does that throughout the year where clients just come to her and say, I just want you to help me get started, or I just want to do a program with where you tell me what to do and then you follow up. But this is just it's packaged so it's a little bit more affordable because it is a group program. It will have a group element to it, and they'll be able to do it. That's a long, especially for the amount that you're charging for it, Amy. That's a long time. It's a very generous program, and I think it will be perfect that time of year. People will be more dialed in. I think all programs, all fitness programs, nutrition programs, whatever, you kind of need to go into it knowing a little bit about what you want, right? What our saying when we first started was get what you came for. So maybe like for Amy, when she first started, she just needed to get out of her house and have something for herself. And then that changed over time. And that really seems to serve people to start with one little thing, like, let me work towards this. They see the success and then they build on it, which really speaks to that program and all the programs that you've done. Well, I could talk to Amy. We definitely will have Amy on multiple times on the podcast because she is a wealth of knowledge. And I wanted to introduce her today and let you know kind of her evolution through her journey, because I think it really helps people to hear she gave her kids Pop Tarts. I gave my kids Pop Tarts. We have that in common. We are all just trying to do, what, and my kids are going to come back to me and say, Mom, you never gave us Pop Tarts. But I know the idea. I know the idea. And it's so important that you guys realize that even our coaches, our instructors, we're all just people, but we figured something out. And not only that, we figured out how to help other people. A lot of people have the knowledge. It's having the skill set to bring other people with you. And Amy is so gifted at that in her classes. She's turned over men taking music driven classes that love it and look forward to it. And like, that's not something they would have said they wanted when they first came, but it's something that they were willing to try because Amy made them feel comfortable. And I think she does the same thing in her nutrition programs. She makes people feel comfortable. She tells people, I don't need you to be perfect. I don't need, I know that real life happens. I get it. I'm a mom too. I like to socialize on the weekends too. I get it. And that's why people keep coming back to our programs, because they do feel that sense of connection and they do see their success building, and they're not afraid to continue because there's something that happens along the way. So if you want to work with Amy, I'm sure she's going to be like, not right now, but she's definitely, someone that you can approach just to see like, hey, where do you think a good spot for me would be? Do you think I should do individual? Do you think I should do this group program? She's really good at kind of identifying people just from a short conversation, like what that person needs. So she would definitely be a great resource for you. And if you don't follow her already, she's on Instagram. She's got a menopause makeover. I'll link those things. And so you can see them. But she does put out some great content as far as nutrition advice and just really practical advice. There's so many more things that she could share. But thank you so much, Amy, for being on. This is our longest podcast. That makes sense because Amy's been one of our longest students and coaches, and she does so much for this community. And I'm incredibly grateful for her. And I'm scared, I'm excited / nervous to share her beyond because she's pretty valuable. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to connect with her. Thank you so much for being on, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.